once heard somebody giving business advice to another person. And his business advice was, whenever you work for somebody else, always make sure that you are indispensable. Don't be a dispensable employee. Don't be the kind of person they don't need. Be the kind of person that you hold something, you have some proprietary value that is unique to you. When it comes to the world of Torah, to the world of learning, to the world of growing, of knowing what it says in the Jewish books and the Jewish codes, there's also a group of sages, I'm being very kind, I'm calling them Chachamim, who have decided that the best way to keep their jobs is by keeping people less educated than they are. This is their attitude. Their attitude is, I can make a great rabbi so long as the people don't know enough to challenge who I am. When I was studying in Yerushalayim by Rabbi Yaakov Peretz, Hashem should give him a refuah shlema, he's home already. I once asked him a Halachah question, and I said, I'm sorry to ask, you should never be sorry to ask. I said, okay, well, is this thing allowed? Can you do this? He says, of course. I said, does the rabbi do it? He says, no. I said, okay, so I don't want to do it either. He said, I'm not Moshe Rabbeinu. I didn't receive a Torah on Mount Sinai. You have to do what your logic, what your understanding of Torah and mitzvot brings you. That's your obligation to follow. A rabbi is here to guide you. But the purpose of a rabbi is to make you great. Not to make you a follower. Not to make you a person who's dependent on them. Not to make you a person who always has to ask them a question. And unfortunately, there have been places and there are times and there are people that when they educate, they don't wish to make people great, but they wish to make themselves great. I want to show you how smart I am. I want to show you how much I know. I want to show you how much I'm the greatest gift to humanity. And I came here tonight with a hope, with a desire, with a fervent wish that we could put together a group of people, regardless of how much you have studied before, regardless of how good your Hebrew skills are, regardless if the papers that I'm going to hand out tonight are going to scare you. I promise you, no matter how well you know how to read Hebrew, unless you're one of the two rabbis in the room, it's going to scare you. But I'm here to help you get through them. 7 years ago, I started a class similar to this in San Diego. A group of lay people, men and women. We meet 2 nights a week. And I said, I want to study seriously. No more fluff classes. Let's study something with material from books like we did in yeshiva. And I got together this group of people who were so excited. And then I handed out my first source sheet in Hebrew. And somebody looked at it and was holding it upside down. And I said, okay, so this is where we're at. I get it. It's my Hebrew source sheet upside down. And someone else looked and said, Rabbi, there's no way in the world that I'm going to be able to study this. I said, you're right. Tomorrow morning you won't be able to study this. But if you're committed, and if you're dedicated, and if you let me be there with you, I will make sure that one day you are able to learn these things for yourself. Because my greatest dream is that the people that I learn with could one day say that they outgrew me, that they're smarter than me, that they know more than me. That's what I wish to hear. Our rabbis tell us there are 2 people who are never jealous of 2 other people. A parent is never jealous of the success of a child, because the greatest joy for a parent is their children are successful. And a rabbi, a chacham, is never jealous of the success of their students, because if my student can outgrow me, that's the best thing that ever happened. As David HaMelech, King David says about his son Shlomo, the wisest man on earth, he says, if your son will be wise, if your heart will be wise, my son, then I will also be happy. If your heart is wise, I'm also proud. I'm also happy. So do me a favor, I'm going to hand out a source sheet now. Don't get scared. I'm going to walk you through it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, which letters I'm talking about, I put numerical English numbers there. Number 1, I'm going to summarize it, and right next to it, next to number 1, what it is that it says over there. Number 2, right next to what it says over there. I'm telling you, in a number of months, a year, you're going to be able to go back into the source sheet and read everything that I said here. With that, I'd like to hand out this sheet. I'm going to hand them in 2 different directions. If you could just pass up the extras to me, I'd appreciate that. The difference between a lecture and a class, a drasha and a shi'ur, is that a lecture has a beginning, start with a nice story, you have some content in the middle, you conclude at the end. A class, though, is something that's ongoing. If we take a tangent tonight that we didn't intend to take, that's why we're here. That's the reason why we're here. If we end up taking 2 months to study something that should have taken us 1 month, That's the whole purpose of a shiur. There's no beginning, there's no middle, there's no end. When I finished yeshiva in 12th grade, I was waiting for my diploma. And my rabbi said he's not going to give me a diploma because you never finish studying. Studying is something you do your whole life. And B'ezrat Hashem, tonight we're starting a journey of learning together, B'ezrat Hashem. Can I ask, how many of you have been to one of my classes in the past? Raise your hands. How many of you are part of our Facebook forum? Okay, welcome. Baruch Hashem. I would love to, if you have 2 minutes after the class, just let me know, put a face to a name that I see on Facebook. I would really appreciate that. If anybody has to go at any time, just
basically
feel
we want
free.
to know who shops while the trader does.
I don't know, I was at a restaurant tonight. I have no idea why you guys are like, we need cauliflower pancakes from Trader Joe's. We have such beautiful food in Los Angeles. Just see what we eat in San Diego. If it wasn't for Coffee Bean, we'd die of hunger. But that's my rabbanit over there at the end. Everything that I do in my whole life is because of her, so please know her. She's more important than I am in this room today. Coming to Los Angeles to give this class, I'm walking into a minefield. I know that whatever I'm going to say tonight, especially if it's being recorded, one day is going to be manipulated and used against me. So I'm reading myself my rights. Anything you say or do will be held against you in a court of false rabbinic law here in Los Angeles. I'm sure that somebody's not going to like something that I say. And I decided that before starting to study anything, I can't tell you, hey, you should trust me. Because you don't know me well enough to trust me. Maybe some of you do. What I can tell you is, whoever you've been trusting until now hasn't given you the whole picture of Jewish law. That's what I want to pass off right now in the first few minutes of my drasha. So at the very least you can say, I don't trust him, I don't trust him, I don't trust her, but I want to learn enough to know for myself so that I don't have to trust anybody else. Because knowledge is power. And in Judaism you have an obligation to be a Torah scholar in your own right. To know things for yourself. And with that I decided to take a few of the complaints, a few of the halachic questions, and we'll be going through this in future months. But let's start off with the first topic that came up on one of our Facebook forums. I'm invited to another person's house. They keep kosher. They make sure they eat kosher food. They don't mix meat and milk. They're observant of the halachot that they do in kashrut. It could be that they're lacking in other areas of halakha, like perhaps Shabbat. Someone told me, you can't eat in somebody's house unless she covers her hair. I said, where does it say that? What are you afraid of? Someone's hair is going to fall into your food and then it's not going to become kosher. What are you afraid of? What does covering hair have to do with food? If a person observes the laws of kashrut and you trust them that they're not going to feed you something not kosher, then you're able to eat in their house. That's what we've been doing for thousands of years. Maybe I made this up, so please read with me. A. Rambam. This is Maimonides in his Code of Jewish Law. I decided not to bring anything from any obscure source. Nowhere some rabbi from some village you never heard of. Just from the two codes, Rambam and Shulchan Aruch, the codes of Jewish law. The Rambam says, source 1, Hamitareach etzel Baal Habayit, a person who's being hosted by somebody else. B'chol makom, in every place. U'v'chol zman, in any time period. She can't tell me, hey, time has changed. You know who says time every time? Rabbi, you can't rely on what it says Shulchan Aruch. The times have changed. You know who says times have changed? The Reform rabbis in Berlin said the times have changed. Not the Orthodox rabbis of the United States should be screaming at me that times have changed. In every place and in every time. And so the Rambam, this is a rule forever. And someone brings you wine, or basar, or meat, or gvina, or cheese, v'chatichat dag, or a slice of fish. Harei ze mutar. This is permitted. You can eat this food. Ve'no tzarich lishol alav. You don't have to ask any questions about the kashrut of this food. Af al pi she'eino mikiro, even though you don't know this person. El yodea shehu Yehudi bilvad. All you have to know, this person is Jewish, I can eat their food. Don't worry, I'll get to the exception. But this is halachah, in every time, in any place. How often do I get a phone call from a guest? Has anyone here ever hosted somebody in their house for Shabbat that they don't know? For a Friday night dinner, for a Shabbat lunch? Yeah, that's a normal thing that happens in the Jewish community. We travel, we go from one place to another place. I'm going to be in Dallas soon doing a wedding. I don't know anybody in Dallas, aside from the people that I'm doing their wedding. I'm going to stay at somebody's house. I know nothing about them, aside from the fact that I'm a Jewish person, they're a Jewish person, they're inviting me to stay in their house, they're going to take me to Beit Knesset on Shabbat. I'm not going to start going through their kitchen cabinets to see what it is that I can eat and what I can't eat. If a Jewish person is hosting me for Shabbat and they're coming with me to the synagogue and they're singing Shalom Aleichem and doing Kiddush, so why do you have to start asking questions? On which basis are you doubting a person's kashrut, a person's status in the Jewish community? This is a normal thing. We've been doing this forever. Thank you. But there's a flip side to this. The exception to this is if you know this person doesn't keep kosher. What does it mean they don't keep kosher? That's a question. What does it mean a person doesn't keep kosher?
Their salt doesn't have an OU, for example.
For example, their salt doesn't have an OU. Fuad, that's the wrong answer.
Wait, hold on.
You saw them by
What's eno kasher?
This person, lo medakdek b'dvarim elu. He's not particular about these matters of kashrut. What does it mean not particular about kashrut? He eats what? She eats what? Yeah, like you hear a person, you go to their house and say, hey, Friday night we're ordering McDonald's or Jack in the Box. What do you want? Okay, that place, you shouldn't be eating their food. But that's obvious to anybody who has a brain in their head. You're going to somebody's house that does keep kosher. They do care about kashrut. Let's say you find yourself in a situation where you accepted the offer from the host and you see that they ordered Friday night dinner from KFC. You know, that's what happened. You don't eat the major things like wine or meat until someone says, oh, I'm a Jew who keeps kasher and this is good to eat. I know this. I know where they got this food. But aside from that, your coffee, your tea, your orange juice, your water, your cookies, your cakes, you're a regular person in a regular person's house. This is Halachah in the Rambam. Now, if you want to say times have changed and things are different and maybe this and maybe that and maybe the other thing, the burden of proof is not on me, the burden of proof is on you. And if you wish to argue that case, you'll have to bring me also another halachic source, a classic legal Jewish source, that says what the Rambam doesn't say. Topic number one, I'm putting it on the side. When you go to a Jewish person's house, and they're a Jewish person who keeps kasher, you eat their food without asking questions.
But how do you know they keep it?
How do you know that a person has a job? You go visit them in their workplace? They have a job. You believe them, they have a job.
What if they're not Shomar Shabbat? You can't assume.
It doesn't say.
What does Shmirat Shabbat have to do with eating kasher? I know what you're saying. If you're willing to have a class, I'm going to have a class about this topic, but I wanted to give you a few halachot that perhaps someone didn't say in the Shulchan Aruch. The second area of halakha that I wish to get to tonight was, how long do you have to wait between eating meat and milk? Now there's a whole shiur to give on this. Let's summarize it very briefly. Does the Torah say that you're not allowed to eat meat and milk together? Don't cook a goat in its mother's milk. It says this 3 times to teach you 3 different things. One of them is there's a biblical prohibition, a Torah prohibition, to eat meat and milk that were cooked together. Which kind of meat and which kind of milk? Kosher meat and kosher milk. What if a person is going to have a ham sandwich cooked in butter? Is that a violation of the laws of meat and milk? No, they're violating the laws of kashrut. You can't have a ham sandwich. But are they violating meat and milk? No. In order for meat and milk to be a problem, it has to be a goat in its mother's milk, meaning a kosher animal in a kosher animal's milk. That's a biblical prohibition. Our rabbis come along and they add another prohibition. Our rabbis like to do that. They add fences to the Torah. That's their obligation. That's what we believe our rabbis were supposed to do from Mount Sinai. And our rabbis say that not only can you not eat meat and milk that were cooked together, you also are not allowed to eat meat and milk that were put together. Meaning? A cheeseburger, assuming the cheese was not grilled on the burger. Can I use a different example? A salami sandwich with cheese. I don't even know if there's such a thing. That's a rabbinic prohibition. If you're going to take a cheeseburger and the burger was grilled with the cheese, that's a good example of a biblical prohibition. So, cheeseburger with cooked cheese and cooked meat together, that is a biblical prohibition.
But you said just goat. What if it's a cow?
Our Chachamim understand that the Torah was just giving an example of kosher meat and kosher. Thank you. That's a good question. But I want to ask Mechila, I have here Rabbi Moshe and Rabbi Yonatan that could be giving this class with their eyes closed. I just want to say, I'm teaching halachot in front of you, but I'm asking you your permission, B'lad Hashem, and especially to Rabbi Moshe, who opened up this Bet Midrash and opened up this place and gives me the chizuk here in Los Angeles. Only Rabbi Moshe, if the whole world is going to fight and scream and kick, only Rabbi Moshe has my back. So I appreciate it, and us being here tonight is all b'zkuto. B'lad Hashem.
I'm very tired. I just came from a cruise, so you'll forgive me. It's nothing to do with the lecture.
Next time we'll ask Rabbi Moshe, how it is you go on a cruise and you come back tired? Please, whenever you need to go. So now tell me about waiting between meat and milk. If I eat meat, according to the Torah, can I have cheese afterwards?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, according to the Torah, what it says in the Torah, yes. According to the rabbis, can I have meat and then have cheese afterwards?
No.
Yes.
If you clean the table.
What did I tell you? The rabbis only added one fence. The fence was not to eat meat and milk together, even if they were not cooked together.
Same meal.
In the Talmud, there's a rabbi who says, I'm vinegar, the son of wine. My father used to wait a whole day between eating meat and milk because his definition of together was maybe it's together, it's in my mouth, it's the flavors in my mouth, who knows? And I only wash my mouth out between meat and milk, and then I have dairy right away. So let me tell you what it says, Shulchan Aruch. Number 2, Shulchan Aruch says that if you eat meat, what's happening over there?
They're planning out which restaurants to go to.
I'm really excited.
If you eat meat,
You should leave now, leave now.
I was thinking, so then if you can have meat, can you have dessert after? Like a dairy dessert.
very good. That's exactly what I'm going to talk about right now. Look, what's your name?
That's alright.
Right, we're up on the next. That's the next question. That's exactly what we're going to do right now. So let's do this. Achal basar, if you ate meat, afilu shel chai ve'of, even chicken, or we're including all categories that the rabbis consider meat. Lo yochal gvina acharav ad she'ashesh shesh sha'ot. You're not allowed to eat, says Rabbi Yosef Karo Maran, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, the rabbi of the Sfaradim. You should not have dairy afterwards until 6 hours have passed. ואם שהה כשיעור אם יש בשר בין השיניים צריך להסירו והלועס לתינוק צריך להמתין. And even after 6 hours, if you still have some ribeye steak stuck in between your teeth, then you have to take it out before you're allowed to have dairy. So how long do you have to wait after eating meat before you can have dairy? According to Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Maran,
6 hours.
6 hours. 6 hours. They always tell us that Sfaradim are more lenient than Ashkenazim, right? That's always what we hear. We always get a bad reputation that Sfaradim were so lenient, all the time we're so lenient. Let me just read you something. Yeah.
Sorry, Rabbi, but how did the 6 hours come up?
Oh.
Why did you specifically find 6 hours?
Okay. That's a great question. I will come back here to Los Angeles to talk just about this topic, but let's work this out outside of the papers. So according to the Torah, you're not allowed to have meat and milk that are cooked together. According to our rabbis, you're not allowed to have meat and milk that were not cooked together, but were put together. There's a custom, an old custom, in the times of the Talmud, you're talking about 2,000 years. Okay. Remember this. That our rabbis said, what does it mean together? The rabbis say you can't have meat and milk together, so maybe there's still some meat stuck in your teeth. Or forgive me, one of the commentators says maybe you're still burping up flavors of your food, and that still might be considered a mixture of meat and milk. So every rabbi decided for themselves what it means, how long they're going to have to wait between eating meat and having milk so that there wouldn't be any residue of meat. Some were very extreme about this. 6 hours, I told you 24 hours, there was a rabbi who waited. And one rabbi said, no, I just wash my mouth out, because when I wash my mouth out, I clean my teeth. Do I have any meat left in my mouth? No. So you see that in rabbinic literature, you have two extremes. Washing your mouth out and waiting 6 hours, 24 hours, the whole day. The 6 hours is the origin of the Rambam. Maimonides is the one who made up this number of 6. And Rabbi Yosef Karo is the one who rules this as Jewish law. On the Shulchan Aruch, there's an Ashkenazi rabbi who always argues. What's his name? The Rama, Rabbi Moshe Isserdish. I gave a class here on Pesach last year, before Pesach last year. I spoke about the beauty of Rabbi Moshe Isserdish and his relationship with Rabbi Yosef Karo. If you want, you can listen to that class. It's online. I'll post a link in our Google Classroom. The Rama says, listen, that's maybe what they did in the Sephardic countries, 6 hours. But where I come from, that's not what we did. Yesh Omrim, some say, that's source number 3. De'en tzachim lamtin 6 sha'ot. You don't have to wait 6 hours at all. רק מיד אם סילק ובירך ברכת המזון, מותר על ידי קינוח והדחה. Rather, right after you finish your ribeye steak, you wash your hands and your mouth, you say Birkat HaMazon, the blessing after the meal, and then you say, hey, I want to get some ice cream, please. Maybe some coffee with some cream and sugar. You wash your mouth out, you said Birkat HaMazon, you finished your meat meal, now you can have dairy all you want, because it's not together anymore. Maybe I'm not going to exaggerate if I tell you that 500 years ago in Europe, all the Ashkenazi Jews, this is what they did. They ate steak, they ate chicken, they said Birkat HaMazon, they washed their mouth, and they had dairy right away. Not 6 hours, not 1 hour, not 3 hours, not half an hour, right away. But of course, life can never be that simple, right? V'haminhag ha'pashut, the second paragraph in number 3. The simple custom where we come from. Lehamtin achar chilat ha'basar sha'a echad, is only to wait 1 hour after eating meat. Says Rabbi Moshe Sholish, the custom in all of Europe, in all of Ashkenaz, is to wait 1 hour. That's like the strict opinion. You eat meat, you wait an hour, you have dairy. He has a condition. The condition is that you say the blessing of Birkat HaMazon. So you at least end your meat meal and then start a dairy meal. Don't have dairy inside of your meat meal. On the top of page 1, on the left column, Yesh Omrim, but some say that you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't have meat and then say the blessing after the meal and eat dairy right away. It doesn't look right. It looks like you're trying to have meat and dairy together. And then he says, but nobody in Ashkenaz has this custom to be careful about that. We do that all the time. We do Birkat HaMazon and right away have dairy. And then the last sentence, and this is what doomed all the Ashkenazi Jews to a life of Sephardic oppression. Yesh medakdakim. Some people are very careful. Lehamtin 6 sha'ot achar chilat basar, to wait 6 hours after eating meat and milk. V'chen nachon lasot, and that's the right thing to do. So Rabbi Moshe Yisrael says, some of us Ashkenazi rabbis just wash our mouth out. Some of us wait 1 hour, but if you really want to be strict, what should you do? 6 hours. Like who? Like the Sfaradim. And somehow that custom, maybe in the last 100 years, I don't know to tell you a number, that became the prevalent custom in Ashkenaz. That they wait 6 hours, like us, but if they bump into a Sephardic Jew, for example, some Persian Jews that I met, some Bukharian Jews that I met, that maybe wait 3 hours after a piece of chicken or something like that, what do you mean you have to wait 6 hours? You're going to tell me to wait 6 hours? I'm the one who made up 6 hours. You're the one who just washed your mouth out. So 100 years ago, you became fanatically religious like us. That's nice. But we all know that you could just wash your mouth out. That's enough. It's only a Sephardic stringency that you have to wait 6 hours. Now, what did I come to do here tonight? I came to make you stop waiting 6 hours? Absolutely not. But let me ask you the following question. Now that you know what you know, if I eat steak and I brush my teeth, or I wait an hour, and then I eat dairy, did I violate a biblical prohibition? No. Did I violate a rabbinic prohibition? No. Did I violate a rabbinic custom? Yeah, maybe. Right, that's right. So now what happens if I'm walking down the street? I just had dinner with my wife, and I just actually had dinner with her at Taim restaurant. That's not a free advertising, I don't know. And then I walk down, we finished, we had some drink. Then we walk down the street and we find ourselves in the ice cream parlor. We get ourselves a scoop of dairy ice cream. We make the blessing, Shakol, Niyah, Bidvaro, and oh my gosh, we had steak 45 minutes ago. But I already said God's name in the blessing. To eat or not to eat? What do you mean? I'm supposed to have meat and milk together? That's it. We're opening up a new restaurant together. Glad kosher meat and milk together. Very good. You said Hashem's name. Saying God's name in vain, is that a rabbinic custom? Is it a rabbinic law? Is it a biblical law? Absolutely. It's a biblical prohibition. It's one of the 10 commandments. When a biblical commandment and a rabbinic commandment have a face-off, who's going to win? The Torah. So you actually have an obligation to finish the blessing. You don't have to finish your whole ice cream, just enough to be able to not say the blessing in vain, and then say, I'll hold it for another 6 hours till it melts. The purpose of what I told you now is just to show you that when people tell you, oh, they didn't wait 6 hours, oh, maybe they don't keep kosher in their house because they eat dairy after they eat meat, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because in Jewish law, anyone who really knows Jewish law knows that for thousands of years, many rabbis and the Jewish people didn't even wait. They just washed their mouth. They said Birkat HaMazon and had dairy right away. But now that I disappointed all the Sfaradim because you thought you were going to get off the hook with like an hour, I'll give you a good halakha that you don't know. The reason you don't know is because all the Sephardic rabbis disagree with the Shulchan Aruch about this, except for us. If you eat chicken soup, now let's look at a better thing. A Yemenite beef soup, okay? It's like carrots and tomatoes and beef. And you eat the meat. How long do you have to wait afterwards, according to the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karam? 6 hours. What happens if you didn't eat the meat? You just drank the soup.
Chicken broth.
I'm talking about beef, but I'll make it worse.
Beef broth.
I want to make it worse, because chicken, I know the people with the chicken. What happens if you eat the carrot in the beef soup? The whole pot of carrots in the beef soup. Let's read the halakha. This number 4. I think she wrote the Shulchan Aruch. Achal tafshir shel basar. If you ate food that was cooked with meat, mutar le'echol acharav tafshir shel gvina. You're allowed to eat food that was cooked with dairy. Not so exciting. So if I eat the carrot from the beef stew, I can have the rice that was made in the same pan as the lasagna, but it doesn't have cheese in it. It just may cook together. Vanitila benehem ina lereshut, and it's only optional to wash your hands. אבל אם בא לאכול הגבינה עצמה אחר תפשיל של בשר או הבשר עצמו אחר תפשיל גבינה, but if you want to actually have dairy after you had the broth of the beef soup, you want to eat ice cream after you drank your bowl of beef soup without eating the beef, חובה ליטול ידיו, you have to wash your hands first. Do you hear what the Shulchan Aruch said?
If you
drank a bowl of beef soup without the beef, and now you want to have dairy ice cream, what do you have to do first? Wash your hands.
Not even your mouth.
Not even your mouth. And what happens if you're eating with a fork and a knife? Not like us, we eat with our hands. What if you're a cultured, what? Do you have to wash your hands?
No.
Not at all. Because you don't have anything on your hands. Because you ate with a fork and a knife and a napkin. According to the Shulchan Aruch, if you eat anything aside from the actual meat itself, you're allowed to have right away dairy. And if you want to be strict, go wash your hands.
Is the washing because you have residue on your hands or because you want to create that barrier?
It seems like it's because of residue. That's what it seems like. Now, all the commentators on the page say, no, it can't be. We don't agree with the Shulchan Aruch about this. This is a classic wild card Sfaradim pull. Whenever Sfaradim don't want to do something Shulchan Aruch says, they scream at everybody else, you have to follow Shulchan Aruch, but the moment it's not convenient for them, we don't follow Shulchan Aruch anymore. It's too lenient for us. Yes.
So I make a bone broth soup.
Yes.
Where I dabka filter and just have the juice. So what you're saying, I can just drink that soup and then go off and have my ice cream afterwards.
Correct. Can you have the ice cream and the soup together?
No.
No, you cannot do it together, but can you have them one after the next? Yes.
Same thing with any meal. Any food like the fina you had.
Yeah.
Just the beans, you didn't have the whole.
So the question over there people get into is, can you really differentiate between the meat and the beans? Depends what kind of dafina you have. If it's smushy, if it's watery, but that's why I didn't choose that example. But yes, the answer is technically yes, absolutely. How many here have been to a shiur on kashrut before? Did they ever tell you that halakha? No. Yeah, they told you? Wow, kol hakavod. Baruch Hashem. I would ask you who, but I think I have a suspicion. Washing dishes together. I mentioned this before. But I'll repeat. Not at all. People come to my house and they see that in my house I have one sink. By the way, in my house I have two, because the people who lived before me had 2 sinks. I don't have a meat or a dairy sink. But they're labeled meat and dairy, and the labels fell off after a while. The old tenants moved away. And when people ask me, "Oh, Rabbi, where should I put the meat bowl?" I always go, the right side. And sometimes the people come back next Shabbat, "Rabbi, where should I put the meat bowl?" The left side. "Rabbi told us last week the right side." What am I supposed to say? Halachah says that so long as you, those are my girls over there, Hodaya and Shira.
They are your future composition.
That's right. With parents like us, they don't have a chance to shut up in their whole life. So long as you wash your dishes with soap, Maran says, Yireli, it appears to me, She'im natnu efer b'mayim, if you put some kind of dirt or dust or something that will make the water not clean anymore. במים חמים שביורה קודם שהניף הגדרות בתוכה, אף על פי שהשומן דבוק בהן מותר. If you have dish detergent in your water and you wash your meat and milk dishes together, that's okay. It's allowed. Because the meat flavor that was going to go into your dairy dishes, it already tastes like soap now. And soap flavored meat is not a problem in kashrut. Windex flavored dairy is not a problem in kashrut. Because of this, it's very obvious, those of you who know, Rabbi Yosef ruled that you can have a dishwasher with your meat and your dairy dishes put together, dirty inside of the same dishwasher on a hot cycle. As long as you put detergent in there, it's okay. And they made Rabbi Yosef's life miserable, but really, it's a simple halakha and shulchan aruch. I didn't need someone to tell us about a dishwasher. You could take a meat pot and put all your dirty dairy dishes inside, that's how I used to do it in the olden days, and boil it on a fire and wash all your dishes in there. So long as you have some kind of detergent in that water, it's okay. Cooking meat and milk together. This one got me in trouble last time. Yeah.
What's the reason of the detergent, like, allowable?
That's a very good question. So I'm going to answer your question. I want to say a disclaimer though. Everything I'm saying tonight is what we call in Hebrew Rashi Prakim. It's like I'm just letting you know what we're going to study a little bit about in the next classes that are coming up. Obviously, these areas of halakha have a lot of rules that go into them, and a lot of complications and different applications of the law, and I want you to know all of that. What I'm sharing with you tonight is just so you know that halakha is very different than you may have heard about it until now, and it's worth it to come back and learn about it because you'll learn things that you may have never learned before. Now about the soap. When the main concern in kashrut in general, the poskim tell us, is taste, flavor. If the famous question, if you cut a knife, you take a knife, a meat knife, and you cut an onion with it, that onion is now considered a meat onion. Why?
It absorbs the flavor.
Because it absorbed the flavor of the meat, and now it's going to give off the flavor into that onion, and that onion now tastes like meat. How many of you have ever cut an onion with a meat knife? Have you ever tasted last night's dinner in your onion? No. If you don't taste the meat in the onion, is that a meat onion? No. According to Shulchan Aruch, everything goes by taste. Everything is by taste. Now, obviously, most things you can't taste as a kosher. That's not how you. But you can obviously taste an onion and see if it tastes like meat. You could eat out of your dairy dishes and see, do they taste like the meat that was in the pot? I think anybody here who's ever washed dishes knows that once you wash your dishes with soap, it doesn't taste like anything. Your dishes are the same. And therefore, the reason of soap being there, that even if you had a dish that absorbed flavor and gave off flavor, if it's giving off a soap flavor, soap, even if it has meat inside of it, is not a kashrut issue because the flavor is considered spoiled. And any spoiled flavor is not a concern of ours. For example, if something waits 24 hours before you use it with meat and milk, that flavor that was absorbed, we consider it spoiled because once you leave food out for 24 hours, you wouldn't eat it again. And therefore, we're not concerned with things that are not a good flavor. We're going to actually see that soon about pigs in just a second. Yeah, we're good? Yes.
In this scenario, why are we going to have separate dishes then?
According to this scenario, why should we have separate dishes? That's another great shiur that we should have. Not all dishes are created equally. Some might absorb and some might not. But for example, we already know that glass dishes, according to halakha, not everybody, obviously, not everything is according to everybody. Glass dishes, because they don't absorb flavor or give off flavor, you can have the same glass dishes for meat and milk. We do that all the time. So there are certain dishes that you can, other dishes that you can't, and those details, we're going to get to them also. And that's going to be a shiur for us here. I'm on page 2. This one is a favorite of mine. I got a phone call 2 weeks ago from a rabbi in Los Angeles asking me not to come here tonight. And what? I can't say who, I can't say what. It was very, very kind, it was very warm and welcoming. And one of the biggest concerns was that in our forum, we allow all kinds of things that don't have kosher symbols. He said, you say things are kosher for Passover, they're not even kosher for the whole year. That was his... let's talk about orange juice. Yeah, orange juice. What's the problem with orange juice? Well, maybe the machinery, what's going to be with the machinery? They have to list in this country the ingredients. In the orange juice, it doesn't say pig. It doesn't say monkeys. It says, orange juice, maybe citric acid, I don't know, absorbic acid, and it's over. It doesn't say, and also monkey guts. There's nothing in the orange juice aside from orange juice. So no, the FDA only has to list what they put in the food. But what they spray in the machinery, they don't have to tell you. I said, okay. So what's your theory? Your theory is in the orange juice company, they're spraying all the machines with pig fat? He said, exactly. I said, what about this halachah in Shulchan Aruch? You want to read with me? Number 7.
We did number 6?
Yeah, we did. Outside.
Okay.
Shulchan Aruch says, Kol elu hamashkin v'chen hachometz v'shechar shel shechar. Vinegar that's made out of anything except for wine is kosher. Now people always say, Rabbi, how can you say it's kosher? It says vinegar. Unless it's wine vinegar, it's not a kashrut problem. But maybe they're going to write vinegar, and instead of putting, grain vinegar or corn vinegar, they're going to put inside of their white wine vinegar or balsamic vinegar. Maybe. Could it happen? Yeah, of course it could happen. So why don't I care if it just says vinegar? Why don't I have to see which kind of vinegar? Because the Shulchan Aruch says you don't have to check. I'll tell you why. You're not allowed to buy vinegar. Asur liknoto mihem im demehem mikarim midmei hayayin. Shanu choshashim sheme'erev behen yayin. What's worth more? Your big gallon of Heinz distilled white vinegar, or your little bottle of balsamic vinegar? How much you pay for that big thing of white vinegar?
$3.
$3? Yeah. How much you pay for a little bottle of kosher balsamic vinegar? 18? Yeah? So why on earth would the company put inside of your product wine vinegar when they could get away with putting distilled white vinegar? Unless wine is cheaper than the other vinegars that they would use in the market, there's no reason to assume that the vinegar that is being used is not kosher. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. Why would you assume that people are using more expensive ingredients? Skittles. Talking about Skittles for a second? My childhood was robbed from me. Skittles had, in the past, let's say 10 years ago, 2 very problematic ingredients. Gelatin and grapes. Grape juice. Now we all know that if you were here in any of my other classes, we'll have a class about this too, I promise. The gelatin, according to us, again, there's always someone who's going to argue, the gelatin, even if it comes from a pig, is kosher. If you want to know, I have a book on the table over there. I have a chapter on gelatin. You're welcome to read why until the next class if you're not going to be able to hold your breath. It's also free on our forum. You could just search gelatin and you'll find a link to that chapter. So gelatin was never a problem. The problem perhaps was the grapes, because maybe the grapes were touched by somebody who was an idol worshiper. I'm putting it out there. A while ago, Skittles got rid of both the gelatin and the grapes. Why? Not out of a service to the Jewish community. Why did they do that?
Vegetarian. Vegan?
A little bit. Perhaps they can market to a new clientele. I don't know how many vegans are eating Skittles.
Skittle pox?
It's cheaper. Why should we spend money getting animal products and grape products when we can use chemicals that taste the same way? There's no reason to assume that someone is putting a more expensive ingredient in your product unless you just want to live in a fantasy that maybe everything is being sprayed with pig fat. But what if it really was sprayed? What if it really was sprayed with pig fat? So the truth is that I don't have an answer from a Sephardic rabbi for you. I have to go to the world of Ashkenazi stringencies to answer this question for you. So please look at source 8. Rabbi Moshe Isolish, the Ramah. The Ramah is bothered that maybe those pots that they make the vinegar inside of them, maybe those pots are actually smeared with pig fat. Why you would do that, I don't know. But maybe they were. So the Ramah says, Haga, my note. Source 8. Even though we know that it is common practice in Europe that they smear their pots and pans with pig fat before they cook their food inside of it. Common practice. Regilim, this is something that's done. And nachush, you have nothing to worry about with the pig fat. Because, like the soap, Who wants pig-flavored vinegar? It's not a good flavor. That's a I'm gonna buy honey or jelly or what from the farmer's market. Maybe he used that same pot before he made the jam in there. Maybe he made that's okay. I don't want pig-flavored jam, and therefore that's a negative flavor. And in halakha, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry that maybe they were put in pots that held wine inside of them before that was not kosher. For the same reason. And look, in a few chapters later, look what I wrote in a few chapters later, that if they put blood inside of the food, that also might be okay. But go look in that chapter over there what I wrote about. Everything that you've heard, that you cannot buy products based on the ingredients because maybe the machinery has pig fat on it. That's a fallacy. It's an invention of someone's fantasy.
Is it because it's batel shishi?
We will talk about bitul, but here he's talking about it's both pagum, it's not a good flavor, and it's nullified in 60. If you're worried about the stuff they spray in the machinery, there's no way in the world that the stuff that goes on the machinery is more than what's actually cooked or made in that machinery. It's not it can't be.
People ask this a lot when they want to buy cast iron pans.
Yes.
That have their coating on it.
Was an oil.
Right. But they wonder, can they buy it? It has to be, so people shy away from that. Because, again, with this fantasy that people are just coating stuff with lard and then selling it and then laughing when the Jewish person buys it.
I once told that to somebody non-Jewish. They thought we're the craziest people on earth. You think everything in the world has pig fat inside of it? How could it be? Like, we don't even eat that much pig. Okay.
Most companies now just use soybean.
The same thing about buying oil or honey. Maran says you're in the farmer's market. You want to buy oil or honey. This guy is not a company. They don't have a production line. It's not somebody who has to worry about the health department. They're making food in their pots and pans and bringing it to the farmer's market. I'm not talking about things that have problems of being cooked by non-Jews. That's a separate category. So honey and oil are good examples because they're allowed to be cooked by someone who's not Jewish. Shemen udvash shel goyim, honey and oil of non-Jews. Af al pi shem megushanim, even though they cooked them, source number 9, mutarim, you're allowed to eat them. Why? Why? Because what could they have made inside of this pot? What could they have cooked in there before they made your honey? Give me a really bad example. Like the worst of the non-kosher things you could think of.
Pork belly.
Very good. Pork belly they made in this pot. Unbelievable. They washed it out and they made inside of there, they made your raspberry jam for the farmer's market. Mutarim, it's allowed. Mipnei basar pogem et hashemen umasricho v'chen ledvash. Because anybody who knows, nobody wants their honey or their oil tasting like pig belly. And because of that, it would give a bad flavor into the honey or oil anyways, and that's not a kashrut concern. Yes.
Would you extrapolate that to like orange juice and stuff? Could you do that?
To orange juice?
Yeah.
Are you making fun of me?
No, I'm serious. No, it's a legal question.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, because he's pointing out honey and is it just an example he's using?
Well, you could argue, if somebody wanted to be argue with me and say that I'm misinterpreting this, is he's saying the word masricho, that the fat spoils the honey or spoils the oil. I don't, maybe that's really a scientific thing. So then you fall back on source number 8, which says it just doesn't taste good. Right? So
my point
one of them, yes, you can extrapolate from either one of these sources.
I mean, you wouldn't have, nowadays also like with orange juice, you don't want any of those bad tastes in orange juice. Right. So they are particular.
Correct. And there are rabbis who did write this about the modern factories. They have an interest not to mess up the flavors of their food. But I didn't want to go to contemporary sources because when I go contemporary, that's when people start, maybe this. I'm trying to stick to books that everyone else has to listen to also. My last example. This is my introduction to the class today. You know that, right? My last example. What if Judaism? We live in a generation of a lot of what ifs. What if this? What if that? What if the next thing? What about? What if they put pig in there? What if this wasn't kosher? What if that? That's what we hear all the time.
How do you know?
How do you know something? So I'll show you that according to our rabbis, that attitude is not only against Judaism, but our rabbis had the exact opposite attitude of, why would you say that? Why would you assume that? Why would you consider that? Why are you making problems? In the words of Albert Einstein, I tend to avoid those who have problems for every solution. There are people like that. Every solution we come up with in Jewish law, they have a problem for us. So let me walk you through a category of halakha called bread. It's called pat shel goyim, bread of non-Jews. According to many of our rabbis, you're allowed to buy bread from a non-Jewish bakery, maybe not from a non-Jewish person's house, not because of kashrut worries, but we had a concern that if we start to bake things for each other and cook things for each other, we'll end up marrying each other, and to avoid assimilation, our rabbis instituted there are certain things we don't do with other people, just so that we don't associate too much and end up intermarrying. One of those things is eating bread. So our rabbis make a distinction. The bread that your next door neighbor bakes for you, a special artisan challah for your Shabbat, that creates some kind of relationship. But when you go to the bakery or the grocery store and you pick up a loaf of bread, and there's 50 other people buying bread, nobody cares about you over there. It's not a personal thing, and therefore that bread will be allowed. The question is, what if it's not bread? What if inside the bread there's eggs? People ask us all the time on our forum, but there's eggs in the product, Rabbi. There's eggs over there. They didn't check the eggs. Maybe they cooked the eggs. Or what happens if on the surface of the bread there's a little bit of egg? You know, they smear the bread with egg. So Maran wants to know what's the kashrut status of things that bread is allowed to be cooked by a non-Jew, but an egg maybe not. So what's the story over here? So Maran writes in number 10. B'makom shenahagu heter bepat shel paltar, in a place where we are able to eat non-Jewish bread. That's the custom. By the way, which place has the custom that you're allowed to eat bread from non-Jews? Every country the Jews ever lived in. The only one that I know that did not eat bread from non-Jews was the Arizal, because according to Kabbalah, there's a whole other story there. But the rabbis who followed halakha, all of us, every person in this room, you're Ashkenaz, you're Sephardic, you're Yem, I don't care, all of your grandparents ate bread from non-Jewish bakeries in every country they lived in. When they tell you, oh, I keep pas Yisrael, I only eat bread, it's an invention of the 21st century. They keep things like that. They invented them 5 years ago, but halachot that are written in the Torah, they ignore them entirely. So in a place, which place? All the Jewish communities in the world that eat bread from non-Jewish bakeries, even if they kneaded the dough with eggs, or there's eggs smeared on the top of it, mutar, it's allowed. Okay, but Rabbi, you didn't answer the question. What about the blood in the eggs? They didn't check the eggs. What about the cooking of the non-Jew in the eggs? What if? Maybe this is a problem, maybe that's a problem, maybe. So I decided not to go to a Sephardic source, but I took the strictest commentary that I know of in the Shulchan Aruch. It's the Shach, the Siftei Kohen, one of the great rabbis of Ashkenaz. And he asked this exact question. Source 11. Afilu hu nilosh bebeitzim? You're telling me even if there are eggs inside of this bread that it's allowed? That's what you're saying, Rabbi Yosef Karo? And the Shach says, exactly. Of course it's allowed. Why is it allowed? What problem could there possibly be with bread that has eggs inside of it? Imishum, the first bold 2 words. Imishum dam, if maybe there's blood in the egg and they didn't check the eggs. Do you have to check eggs before you make them?
No.
Why is everyone so quiet? He's here.
What was your question?
Do you have to check eggs? Please, Kosher LA, don't answer this question. I know you guys check eggs. Trick people over here. If you want to make an omelet for breakfast, you have to check your egg beforehand? What are you checking your egg for? Blood. Why would there be blood inside of your egg?
It's fertilized.
Because it got fertilized. Your egg, the poor chicken who's living in this factory in a little cage, dropping, if you want to worry about a biblical prohibition, worry about the dairy industry and the egg industry and how it's working, but let's put that on the side for a second. These eggs that are coming out, there's not a rooster anywhere near sight. There's not a fertilized egg in this factory. And even if there was going to be a fertilized egg, according to the law in this country, they candle eggs. Before they sell you eggs, they have to shine a light through it to see if there's anything inside of it. So if you find a blood spot in an egg today, is it a fertilized egg? No. That blood spot, what is its status in halakha?
Nothing.
That's for another class. According to Shulchan Aruch, you might even be able to eat that blood. But I don't want to talk about it right now. But maybe there's blood in the eggs. Says the Shach, most eggs don't have blood. From all the eggs that you've checked in your whole life, how many of them have had blood spots? The majority?
The organic range-free ones.
Let's leave the organic range-free eggs with the vegan sweet Skittles. Yeah? Your average egg that you've checked in your life doesn't have blood. Says the Shach, why would you create a problem where there is none? Why would you say maybe there's blood in the challah, in the bit? Why would there be a problem? Majority of eggs don't have blood spots. V'imishu, maybe betzei of tameh, maybe they're using non-kosher animal eggs over there in the grocery store, when they're in the bakery, when they're using I don't know which, ostrich eggs, or no, quail is kosher, an ostrich egg. My friends, in Los Angeles, which grocery store can you go to buy ostrich eggs?
Erewhon.
Maybe if you go to the La Brea tar pit, you'll find dinosaur eggs, but ostrich eggs, nowhere. He said, "En mitzvah benenu." Where in the world is the guy who has the bakery going to get an ostrich egg from? Why would you say, maybe there's a non-kosher egg in there? Why would you say that, says the Shaar. It's a nonsensical idea to come up with. And last but not least, im mishum bishulei goyim dasu bebeitzim. He said, maybe you're going to tell me that non-Jews are not allowed to cook eggs for us. That's true. But, kimcha ikal, what's the main ingredient inside of the bread? Flour. So is the non-Jew who bakes bread that has eggs inside of it, if you'd ask him, are you making me bread and an omelet? What will he tell you?
Bread.
No, he's making you bread. The egg is just an ingredient in the bread, and therefore it doesn't even have any halakha problems with it. Says the Shaar, I cannot wrap my head around any reason for why you would say that you cannot eat bread from a non-Jewish bakery, even if it has eggs inside of it. But it gets worse than that. And with this, I'll end my introduction. But maybe the machinery in that bakery, maybe they spray pig fat on it. The rabbi repeats himself in case he wasn't clear the first time. Look with me in the last paragraph, source 12, the second paragraph. Yesh mine nilosh. What is nilosh? Some kind of Ashkenazi honey cake. Shekorin kichlach. You know what kichlach are? Kichel, you ever had kichel before? They don't serve them at Persian bar mitzvah. Kichel is like some kind of sweet cracker that they put salty fish on it. And that used to be the staple of life in Europe once upon a time. It's like the fanciest food you can get is kichel with herring.
Good times.
She'ofinu tam al barzelim. That they bake them on grates, metal grates. Umoshchim habarzel b'shat afiyah b'chelev or chazir. And they smear, while they're baking your bread, they smear on it forbidden fats and pig oil and whatever else they're putting on over there. Botan yesh yizahir. Okay, about those he says, I think you should stay away from them. Ula uslan, don't eat them. V'chena minhag, and that's our custom in Ashkenaz.
What did he say? What's our custom?
Our custom is not to eat the bread that they're smearing the pig fat on it while they're baking it on the metal rods.
Is that interesting? V'chena minhag.
I mean, it's not the halachah.
Right.
Halachah might allow this.
Right.
The Rama is saying the Ashkenazi stringency in this scenario is, let's stay away from it. So tell me, Rabotai, 12 classic Jewish sources that radically overthrow the way we have been taught kashrut since the day we were born. Why have these sources been hidden from us? Why is it that we teach these sources, or we observe these sources, or we even without knowing these sources logically came to these conclusions on our own that orange juice is not forbidden because it doesn't have pig inside of it? We didn't need a Shulchan Aruch to tell you that. Why is it that you're ridiculed and you're mocked and you're scorned, and last but not least, they're told, oh, those people, you can't eat in their house because they don't really keep kosher? Who really doesn't keep kosher? Who really doesn't follow Jewish law? Now that Rabbi Moshe left, I can say things I would never say in front of him. There's a book called the Pitchei Tshuva. It's a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. Pitchei Tshuva writes that if a person chooses to be stricter than a law that is found in the Talmud, in the code of law that we all have to follow. An example. The example he gives, let's say that a piece of pig fell into your chicken soup for Shabbat, and it's nullified in 60. But you say, listen, I don't want to eat pig chicken soup. It doesn't do it for me. I can't. Even I know the rabbi's going to say it's okay, but I can't bring myself to eat pig. If a person decides that they don't want to eat that soup, Says the Pitrei Tshuva, Hevei kemo epikorsut. This person is like a heretic. An epikoros, not a regular heretic. An epikoros is a special kind of heretic. Does anybody have a Rambam on your phone? Sefaria, some app for me, someone with a Rambam on their phone? You could go for me, please, to the Rambam, The Laws of Idol Worship, chapter 10. Oh, you have? Thank you. Rambam, chapter 10. When the Pitrei Tshuva says that somebody doesn't want to eat the soup because they're strict, they want to be stricter than the rabbis of the Talmud, and he says they're like epikosim, they're like heretics. Does that mean that they're actually heretics? No, he's not suggesting you should treat them like a heretic. Rather, what is he telling you? Our attitude towards them, should it be a positive attitude? No, it should be negative. How negative? As negatively as we treat people who would be epikosim. Says the Rambam, chapter 10, in the laws of forbidden of Avodah Zarah. En kortin brit l'shiva amamin. We're not allowed to make a covenant of peace with the 7 nations of the non-Jews who live in the land of Israel. Not non-Jews. There are 7 specific nations of idol worshippers in the land of Israel that we're not allowed to be in a relationship of peace with them. We're not allowed to allow them to stay in the land of Israel and observe idols, worship idols. I'm skipping down a few sentences. If you see somebody who's an idol worshipper in the land of Israel who also belongs to one of these 7 nations, please do not understand from this that we're talking about non-Jews. There's a law that applied in biblical times to a biblical group of people that we don't have anymore. Yes? If you would see such a person drowning in the river, lo ya'alenu, don't help him out of the river. Rahu natur lamut leitzlenu, you see he's about to die, don't save him. But to kill him yourself, you're not going to kill him. He's not fighting with us. Yeah, he's an idol worshiper. He's from one of the nations that doesn't belong in the land of Israel. Yes, we're not allowed to have a covenant of peace with him, but you're not allowed to kill a person like that. Says the Rambam, what is this talking about? That you don't kill a person? B'shiva amamim, of the 7 non-Jewish nations. I shouldn't read this because Rabbi Moshe is going to hear about it and it'll go quick. Aval hamosrim, but those who inform on Jews to the Nazis, to the Cossacks, to the Crusaders, I don't know. Ve'epikorosim, and those guys, those heretics, the epikorosim. Misrael, as long as they're Jewish, hayadin la'abdan bayad. The law used to be, in biblical times, that you should go out and kill them. And to lower them to the lowest pits of destruction. Because they caused a lot of suffering to the Jewish people. And they caused the Jewish people to leave Hashem. I'm going to pass this phone down to whoever gets it. I hope he has Apple Care, so please be careful. I'm not promoting violence here. When our rabbis say, how should you treat a Jew that likes to go above the letter of the law? He likes to do more than what he has to in Halachah. The attitude of the Jewish community is twofold. We put those people on a pedestal. Wow, see, I keep kosher, but he keeps extra kosher. Wow, I wish one day I could be like him, or at least we view it positive. I'm so proud of this person, how much they care about kashrut. And the second feeling that we have is an inferiority complex. Oh, those people really keep kosher, and I'm kind of just half-baked Jewish. Says the Pitrei Tshuva, someone who thinks that they're more religious than Hillel, or Shammai, or Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, or Rabbi Meir Balanes, or Abaye and Rava, or any of the other rabbis who wrote the Talmud, they think that they keep kosher more than Moshe Rabbeinu did. They think that they're more religious than Yehoshua, than the prophet Yeshayahu, than Yechezkel. If they think that they're better than them, really the halakha would be we should kill people like that. Don't really kill them, like heretics. Don't treat them like they're religious people. What difference does it make if you violate the law to be more strict, or you violate the law to be more lenient? A violation of the law is a violation of the law. If you're driving 20 miles on the highway when you're supposed to be driving 65, or you're driving 120 miles on the highway when you're supposed to be driving 65, you're going to get a ticket either way. Both of those are a violation of the law. But Rabbi, how do we stand up for people like that? How do we stand up for saying, I'm also a good Jew. I also know how to keep halakha. The truth is that you really can't. Unless you're willing to teach yourself and to know for yourself halakha. To know that I need to know the sources for myself, because the people that I'm up against are deceptive. And they're not telling me the whole truth. And they won't admit that in Shulchan Aruch it says 1,001 things that they never would do in their own house. The only way to counteract that is by knowing for yourself. By saying, listen, how old am I? How long have I been Jewish for? How long have I been learning for? How many more times can you go to a class where they're going to translate for you the book of Tehillim? They already have 1,000 translations of the book of Tehillim. How many more times can you go to a class, they're going to talk to you about the 10 sefirot of the heavenly realms, and it doesn't even, what does it do for you? You come out of class and now what? You became a better person? You observe Torah any better? You go to some place where they're going to teach you about Jewish meditation and spiritual energy healing. I'm not going to burst your bubble. There's no such thing as Jewish spiritual energy healing. It doesn't exist. Maybe someone told you it does. Okay, fine. So it exists. But what does it do for you? When someone says, hey, your kid's not Jewish enough to have a bar mitzvah in my synagogue. When they say, hey, your food is not kosher enough to bring to the bar mitzvah for the family event. What do the 10 sefirot do for you then? Why not say, I've learned enough. I've learned enough of the stuff that makes me really happy to be Jewish. Let me learn the things that empower me to be Jewish. Let me learn the things that will let me be a Torah scholar. And I'm telling you that I finished my introduction. I had a whole other source sheet to give you tonight. But I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I'm begging you, give me the opportunity to come here every other week and to learn with you. But not to learn with you like other people learn with you. Let me learn with you like I would learn with any of my students in a yeshiva. Let me learn with you like I will learn with any person who's about to become a rabbi in the Jewish people. Let me learn with you as transparently and as honestly. I'm going to tell you the opinions that I wish you didn't know. I'm going to tell you the things that I wish that weren't written inside the Shulchan Aruch. But let us learn together. Let us empower ourselves to be learned Jews. It's enough of being good Jews. It's enough of being really happy Jews. When are we going to say, I have an opportunity for myself to learn Torah, to learn Halachah, to own what it is that I'm studying? And B'ezrat Hashem, that's the goal here tonight. That's what I wish to do here, this week, next week, and every other week that comes. And if you do me a favor, that on that sign-up sheet that came around, if you wish to come back to this class, please write yes in the Google Classroom. I will add you here. You'll get a copy of these source sheets. You're going to have a copy of this video tonight if you wish to hear it again or to listen to it again, or hopefully not to cut it into little clips and show it to other people and get me in trouble. Hopefully not for that reason. Yes. And my rabbinate pointed out a good point. The reason I'm talking about kashrut so much is because it seems like in LA kashrut is a thing. If you were to ask me, Rabbi, what would you like to focus on? The oneness of the creator of this universe, or whether Cheetos are kosher? I would tell you that whether Cheetos are kosher interests me very little. But for some people, I feel like they might choose the kashrut of Cheetos over the oneness of Hashem. So let me tell you how this is going to work. With your permission, it's right now 9:44. I'm not going to do the other source sheet with you. I want to do one or two sources from that source sheet with you, just so I can say that we finished today's shiur. That way next week, we're not doing this week's class. And 2 weeks from now, we're not doing this week's class. And we can come back and do what I really wanted to do in 2 weeks from now. That means that in 3 weeks from now, we'll come back with our third introduction and our final introduction. The fourth class in the series is going to start about the laws of kashrut, but not little things like I did today. We're going to take one topic and rip it to pieces. We're going to start in the Tanakh. We're going to go through the Mishnah. We're going to go through the Talmud. We're going to read the Rambam, the other relevant commentaries. We're going to study Shulchan Aruch. We're going to study the commentaries of rabbis that are still alive today, some who may be passed, from Rabbi Yosef, from Moshe Feinstein, whatever commentaries we're going to go through, so that by the end of a class, I'm not going to tell you what to believe or what to follow, but I want you to be able to say, in this area of Jewish law, in this one halakha of bread being baked in a non-Jewish bakery, I'm a Torah scholar. I'm an expert. Ask me about the next chapter, I have no idea what you're talking about. But this chapter, I'm going to be an expert about. And my hope is that every time we get together, we'll finish one more topic, and one more topic, and one more topic, and you're going to look back after 6 months and say, oh my gosh, 6 months ago, I was still Googling articles to figure out if something is kosher or not. And now I'm opening up huge volumes of the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch and answering these questions for myself. So please, if you can give me another few minutes, I'm going to hand it on the source sheet and I'm going to call with you at night. So this one is going around. More Hebrew, but this one has vowels. And I need one. I just did. Thank you. Source number 2. The Talmud. The Talmud says in Masechet Berachot. What does it mean in Tehillim? I just said about translating Tehillim. I'm going to translate Tehillim. Chapter 87, verse 2. Ohev Adonai Sha'arei Tzion mikol mishkenot Yaakov. Hashem loves the gates of Tzion, of Zion, more than He loves the house, the tents of Jacob, of Yaakov. Ohev Adonai Sha'arim hamitzuyanim b'Halachah yoter mibatei knesiot u'batei midrashot. Hashem loves those places which are experts in Halachah and Jewish law more than He loves any other area of Jewish study. That doesn't mean that nothing else is valuable. But if you're going to ask Hashem, what's your favorite thing that Jewish people should study? He would say Jewish law. And that's what Rabbi Chia Bar Ami says. Mishmei De'ula, from the name of Ula. Miyom shecharav bet mikdash, from the day the temple was destroyed. The only place where you could still find the creator of the universe, the only area of Torah where Hashem still rests inside of, is the 4 cubits, the 4 feet of Jewish law. That's where you can find the creator. That's where you can engage HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They tell you to engage it by doing yoga on the mountaintop. You might engage a spiritual element. But the creator you're going to find in the intricacies of Halachah. Doesn't really make much sense. In the legal codes, you're going to find the creator of the universe. What does the word Halachah mean? A path, a road, the way on which you walk. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the creator, gave us halachot, He wasn't teaching us some dry code. He was teaching us the way in which we could greatest emulate the creator. The way to be divine is by knowing the laws of the divine. Not to focus on other elements. People, I want to see what Hashem is. I want to discuss about Hashem. Can Hashem do this? Can Hashem do that? Don't. You could just be Hashem. Why do you have to discuss Hashem? You could learn halakha and empower yourself to be like the creator of the universe. Rabbi Badi Yosef in section 4, when I first made the source sheet, he was alive. Now in our generation, I'm skipping to page, this left column. V'katav HaShach, the Shach says, remember the Shach we just quoted him? Yesh ba'alei batim shlomdim b'chol yom Gemara u'pirush Rashi v'tosafot. There are lay people that study every day Talmud with commentaries, Rashi, Tosafot. ונראה לי שאין יוצאים בזה ידי חובת תלמוד תורה. And it appears to me that somebody who studies Talmud all day long has not actually fulfilled their obligation to study Torah. אלא שיש ללמוד בספרי הפוסקים הלכה למעשה. You must learn halakha. What is considered a person who has enough time that they can stop studying halakha and then go study other things? Rabbi Yosef recommends anybody who only studies 3 or 4 petty hours a day. I wish we studied that much Torah a day. Once you learn more than 4 hours a day of halakha, you can learn anything else you want. Until 4 hours a day, learn halakha. It's what you need. It's what you need to be able to function as a Jew. It's what you need so you don't have to ask the rabbi every question. This dependency that we have on other people to answer our questions, it's not healthy. We depend on people, and dependencies are generally not healthy at all. We depend on people, and those people don't tell us the truth. We depend on people, and those people manipulate our lives. We depend on people, and we trust them with very intimate details of our life, and those people are not always trustworthy of those details of our life. The way to free yourself from those shackles is by learning for yourself. The Shulchan Aruch in source 5 says, let's say you have a community, you're a synagogue, and you have enough money to hire a cantor for the high holidays, or a rabbi. But you know what a cantor is? My wife says that those who can sing are singers, and those who can't are cantors. Yeah, the cantors, they sit there. What value do they provide to the community? Yeah, maybe they have a nice voice. If you need to choose between hiring a rabbi or hiring a cantor, what should you do? Who should you hire? What do you mean? You hire a rabbi first. Unless the rabbi is not an expert in halakha. If when you ask the rabbi a question, the guy says, well, I'm not a posek, ask another rabbi, call 1-800, this one. If that's what they answer you, they're not a rabbi. Remove them from their position and hire a cantor instead. Because a cantor is more important than a rabbi who doesn't know Jewish law. People, new, this tzaddik comes to town, he's giving out Kabbalistic blessings. You want to know if he's a tzaddik? Knock on his door and ask him a question about the laws of washing your hands for bread. If he doesn't know which chapter that is in Shulchan Aruch or he didn't learn it, don't waste your time getting a blessing from him. It's a waste of time. He's not really a rabbi. A rabbi is one who knows Jewish law, not one who floats on magic carpets. Source 8. Rabbeinu Bachaya, or Bachia, I don't even know how to pronounce it properly. There's a Sfaradim say one way, Ashkenazim another way. He wrote a book called Chovat HaLevavot. I said it correctly. Chovat HaLevavot. Some say Chovot. Chovat HaLevavot tells a story about a Torah scholar who was teaching his students Talmud, and one of the students raised his hand and he asked a theoretical question. Rabbi, what if da 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 da? What did the rabbi tell him back? He said, I've been studying Torah for 35 years, and never did I find a spare moment of time to waste my life on a question like that one. Now, this goes against everything we're taught in modern education. Don't make fun of a question, don't put down a student. I'm not saying that. But rather, before you have time to study all the strange things that people study today, maybe first study all the things that you really need to know. The things that you really need to know to be a Jew who knows what you're doing. And then go on and study everything else. Number 9, it's not really your fault though, because most Chachamim don't study Halachah. They don't really know Jewish law very well. If you were to give them the first source sheet, they wouldn't have responses to everything that's written there. They'd have to go Google it first, and then a WhatsApp group, and then they'd come back and they'd give you all their answers, because they're not experts in Halachah. And who says this? There's a French rabbi. His name was the Meiri. He was a medieval rabbi. His writings were discovered at different points in time. He writes, Ra'iti Talmidei Chachamim, source 9. I've seen Torah scholars. Shidiatam Gdola b'Talmud. These people are some of the most brilliant Torah scholars we've met in our life. They know Talmud, they know how to speak, they know how to hold an audience, they're captivating, they're brilliant people. V'afal piken, enam yudim lechaven shmua achat k'halacha. But these rabbis don't even know how to answer one question in halakha. I visited Rabbi Mari Yosef. There I spoke to one of his students who said that they were at a wedding. Rabbi Yosef was at a wedding, and the person who was doing the wedding, the chief rabbi of Israel at your wedding, Rabbi Mari Yosef, and who does he give the honor of doing the wedding to? Some Rosh Yeshiva over there, one of his rabbi from the yeshiva. And the rabbi from the yeshiva started doing something, but it wasn't correct in halakha. So Rabbi Mari Yosef told him, hey, careful, that's not allowed. What you're doing right now is a mistake. And this rabbi, no, he took him aside, and Rabbi Yosef spoke to him. He said maybe for 30 minutes. And Rabbi Yosef at the end of 30 minutes said, I've never met such a brilliant Torah scholar who at the same time is the greatest ignoramus in Jewish law that I've ever spoken to. He knows a lot of Torah, but actually what you're supposed to do with that information, he has no idea. וכמה מוחזקים ובקיאים בחדרי תורה וכשבא ההוראה לידם אף את הפתח אינם מוצאים. Sometimes people are saying, this is the greatest rabbi of the generation. And a halakha question comes to them, and they don't even know which door to walk into to find the book of halakha. Don't think that just because I sound like somebody who spoke about me. Don't think that just because everybody who has a kippah and a beard, I sound similar, huh? Don't think just because of that they know everything in Torah, myself included. Never think, he knows everything. Nobody knows everything. And the only way you can know if someone knows is if you know yourself. You must learn for yourself. Yeah, there's a time in which you're dependent on teachers, you're dependent on those. It's like a doctor. For a certain point in time, they have to take a residency and they get experience. At a certain point, they have to be their own doctor. You can't always be someone else's resident. You can't live in someone else's shadow your whole life. Halachah I live in, Rabbi Yonatan Eibschitz. I'm reading him not because I really appreciate what's written here, but because he was my wife's great-great-great-grandfather. Ikar Halimud. Rabbi Yonatan Eibschitz was a very clever fellow, in general. His area of halakha, his approach to Judaism was very, everything is very complicated. When he was a little boy, his father came to wake him up for services in the morning. He said, Jonathan, get out of bed. You have to go pray already. Dad, it's Russia. I don't know where he lives. It's just freezing cold out there. There's a snowstorm. I don't want to go to services today. Said, come on, but you're a Jewish kid. You have to go to pray. He says, Dad, I want to stay in bed today. Just let me sleep in today. His father says, you know, Yonatan, you should learn from your evil inclination, from your Yetzer Hara. Look how early in the morning your evil inclination woke up to keep you in bed today. He says, you know, Dad, that's really nice of you to say, but my evil inclination doesn't have an evil inclination who keeps him in bed in the morning. His style was always had the upper hand in everything. Ikar halimud, the main study of Torah, is to study the code of Jewish law, to know the ways of the Creator. And people who spend all day studying all kinds of interesting... Someone told me about Torah last week. I don't know if it's about Torah. It's something in the genre of, you know, the Jews built a golden calf in the desert. But the word for gold, if you flip it upside down, is really silver. And a calf, if you hold it in front of a mirror, the numerical value spells out a horse. It really was a golden calf, it was a silver horse. You know, these Divrei Torah. And then at the end of the story, I didn't understand what they wanted from my life. And I said, okay, Shabbat Shalom, what am I supposed to get from this Dvar Torah? Would it be better if you taught me something that's actually relevant to my life? So people spend their whole life studying things that don't improve their life. These people are destined to die before they even gain any wisdom in their life. I wish to help that every person in the world will be able to educate themselves enough that one day you won't need me anymore. One day you'll go and you'll teach your own classes in Halachah, and you'll know your own Halachot, and when your children come to ask you questions, you won't say, go ask the rabbi, you'll say, I'm happy to show you where it says that in the books of Jewish law. If it's not in the books of Jewish law, then you're going to take out your binder or your folder and you're going to say, look, I got a source sheet about this in 2019, I have a topic, let's learn it together. That's my hope, and that's my dream. Because at the end of the day, people who can think for themselves, who can learn for themselves, are not free people. They're freed from the shackles of people who will use them and manipulate them. But they're the freest people to actually serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're the freest people to actually have a relationship with the Creator of the world. And as Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, the author of the Kuzari, said, if I ask for any freedom, it is for the freedom of the pressures of society. I wish to only be a slave to Hashem because He actually told me what I can do to make Him happy. But everybody else, no matter how much I try, no matter how hard I work, no matter how much I want to prove to you how religious I am and how much kosher I keep and how much Shabbat I observe and how much this and how much my kids go to school, I'm never going to be good enough for the people around me. Says Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, just stop. Don't play this game. Don't buy into the social pressures, the peer pressures that exist in the Jewish community. Because one day you'll be the only one left standing. It'll be you and the Creator of the universe. And you'll say, I'm the one who came here. Look what I have under my belt. Look how much Torah I have here. Look that I didn't live a life of being a slave to people. I lived a life in the service of the Creator of the world. Bezrat Hashem, that's my dream. I hope that's all of our dreams. And God willing, I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks from now on Wednesday night, January 30th. For 1 second, the class on January 30th, I'll be sending out some sources for you to print for the next class. Please, please, please print them. I'll bring a few extras, but not like tonight. Next week's class is When More is Less. The dangers and pitfalls of stringency in Jewish law. It is actually a dangerous thing in Halachah to be strict, and we're going to observe, there'll be a source sheet that goes along with that, and actual examples in different rabbis' writings, the Talmud, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, of where you see the attitude in the Jewish community is that more is really less, and that knowing Jewish law and following just what it says in Jewish law, just, is actually the ideal. And doing more and becoming fanatic and becoming obsessive compulsive and observing Torah to the point where you just become a lunatic and you lose your friends and you lose your family and you lose the whole world, that's not only not the goal of Torah, but it goes exactly against everything that is the Torah. God willing, in 2 weeks from now with sources. Everyone should have a beautiful evening. Thank you very much.